Do you want an amazing marriage? Are you ready to take your marriage to the next level? Then stick around for your Marriage Matters podcast with marriage coach Lynn. Let's put some fun and sizzle into your relationship.
When we talk about communication, what do we mean? Is it the inability to articulate what we mean? Does it involve an inhibition or hesitation to say what we would like to say? Is it the frustration we feel when our partner doesn't get us, even though we've tried 2 or 3 ways of saying something? Is communication something else? Often we are frustrated that our spouse doesn't get what we are trying to say. There's some type of disconnect. In fact, I propose that a failure to communicate is a failure to connect. A failure to connect at the head and heart level. A failure to understand that men and women are wired differently and that our gender differences can pose communication style differences. Our temperament and personality differences can pose communication challenges. If we are not careful, we will walk away from an incomplete conversation. We will be misunderstood. A dialogue with misunderstandings can erupt into anger, resentment, or chaos. The first thing I want to say in this podcast episode about communication is that we want to aim for completion, getting across a complete thought or your main point. Having your partner fully comprehend the reason for your communication. Every time you open your mouth, there should be a reason. We know that communication ranks high on the list of bothersome qualities in relationships. Let's have a 4-part series on communication for the rest of this month. We'll talk about how to talk with your spouse who might have a very different communication style than yours. We'll talk about the importance of listening and how to listen. Let's spend an episode on fighting fair and mastering the art of arguing. Finally, in episode 46, I'll introduce you to nonviolent communication. In today's episode, I want to talk about our responsibility in communicating as well as what to do when someone has a very different style than yours. One of the most important aspects of communication is that we each have a major responsibility to ensure that your partner has heard and understood what you are trying to convey. Many people make the first mistake in the initial exchange by making assumptions that your partner understands. Of course, most of us are good at gauging whether or not our partner has heard us. Is the volume high enough? And are you speaking clear enough? If you want to be certain that you were heard, you could say a sentence or two and then ask your partner to repeat what you said. Slowing down a communication exchange might feel annoying, but you can verify that your spouse is receiving what you are transmitting accurately. Are you looking for accuracy or expediency? I hope you're looking for accuracy. Clarification is king, and following through until the message is understood is queen. Many people give up prematurely before ensuring that their message was accurately received. It's the responsibility of the speaker to ensure accuracy and complete transmission of your intention. Do you know that many arguments start with misinterpretations and they end with misinterpretations left hanging? Let's say your message was accurately received. Does your spouse know what he or she should do next? Have you verbally stated how he or she can help you? Do you want him or her to give you a hug, simply listen, give advice, or take action? And if you want your spouse to take action, does that mean now, tomorrow, or in a week? Say what you mean and mean what you say. Your words matter. No one is a mind reader as much as you like to think that your spouse can fill in the blanks. Be careful with your words. Sometimes we impulsively say things unintentionally, but the words leave our mouth. We don't really mean it. Many of us react a lot. I'm sure it's happened to you. Situations where you were unedited and had quickness of the tongue. When we're hurt, angry, tired, or impaired by drugs or alcohol, we sometimes go silent, turn inward, talk too much, or respond with what we don't really want to say. We might show or feel resentment or contempt. What can we do if a couple has very different personality types or communication styles? What if the wife needs and wants to talk things through in detail or repeat something a few times and the husband feels impatient? What if one person is thorough and the other doesn't care to be so thorough? What if one person is talkative and the spouse is a person of few words? What if one spouse is analytical and slow to decide and the other wants things done right away? Obviously, this is going to impact your communication. I would say that the first thing is to understand your differences. Do you know exactly what the differences are? Are there patterns that have emerged in your interaction? Does one of you raise his or her voice if he or she is not getting their way? Do you have to come back to discussions after a cool down period? Do you feel dominated and can never get a word in? These are dynamics and they go beyond communication style. Accepting each other's influence is important, and I've talked and written about this before. For a date night, you can both sit down and discuss the patterns that emerge between the two of you and when you are with other people in public. You can discuss how you would like to handle these types of situations so that the next time they arise, you can try some new ways of interacting. It's likely that when you have big differences, you can both aim to compromise. Create a situation where you both feel heard and respected and where you have give and take. One of you could take the floor for a minute, then the other can have an equal amount of time to respond. Later, when that subject has run its course and both of you can agree to move on to another topic, the other spouse can bring up a thought or a topic, discuss it, and then the other spouse can reply. Leave time and space for the other person to speak and be heard without interruption or a sense of hurrying. The quieter spouse can learn to speak up a little more, and the more talkative spouse can be quiet. When you're alone with each other, discuss what you do not like when talking in a group of people. If you do not appreciate surprise comments by your spouse, make an agreement beforehand that there are certain things you need to discuss first before sharing them in public. Maybe create a signal system to show each other to halt if someone is opening their mouth and sharing something you'd rather not have revealed. My husband and I were in a group setting recently, and the next day I noticed a few things about myself that might have offended Bob. I brought it up and we discussed it. If anything, I think it's a good idea to continue to work on your awareness and the impact you have on your partner. Finding common ground when you have differences might be difficult at first, but as long as you are willing to understand that there are many possibilities, that things don't need to go your way, that there are different ways of doing things, you can open up to something new and unintended. In other words, don't stick rigidly to an agenda or your original agenda. Think of a brainstorming session with a small group. At first, you might think you have a great idea that you'd like the group to adopt. Then, when you all get together and discuss various ideas, you'll find that what you agree upon is often better than your original idea. Understand that there are differences between men and women. Women are generally more in tune with emotions and prefer tenderness and affection. This is important in a communication dialogue. Women need to understand that sometimes men don't automatically fulfill your needs and might have to exert effort, and vice versa. Keep in mind that husband and wife are a team and that the team is more important than the individual. Try to understand, definitely listen, and keep in mind kindness and respect for other people's opinions and input. This is part 1 in a 4-part series on communication. I hope you enjoyed this general overview. In the next 3 episodes, we will get into a little bit more detail. So I hope you have a great day and make your marriage great.